Greetings. This is TimeRider at Chapter 4. And after a long day of moving, I decided to come home and finish a restoration I began when I was still living in my old home. And I'm ready to begin restoring die casts and doing customizations again, and nothing could make me happier. Today's restoration is perhaps one of the ugliest Matchbox I've ever seen. It's the Matchbox 49B Mercedes Unimog, which is kind of a car slash tractor slash all-wheel drive slash who knows what. It came in both regular wheels and superfast in two color variations, tan over kind of an aquamarine and a bluish over red. It was released in 1967 and produced until 1972. And it came with yellow hubs on rubber wheels in the regular wheel version, and it was released as a superfast. Apparently, there is a fairly rare version that has the tan body over the red chassis. I'm not going to recreate that though, I'm just going to do a straight up restoration. As you can see, mine was none too pretty on top of none too pretty. It was fairly chipped up, and it had wheels that didn't like to stay on the hubs. But we'll see what we can do about all of it here before we're done. You can see that this model is it's pretty much a hot mess. It had been played with quite a bit, so the paint was pretty chipped up. The wheels, tires I should say, practically fell off the wheels, and the wheels themselves were a hot mess. I didn't have any replacement tires, but I think I had a way to deal with that, which I will do when the time comes. Looking closely, you may notice too that the back fenders are bent. So there's some straightening that's going to have to go on here. I decided to make quick work of this. I went about drilling out the posts. And once I had it apart, I filed off the posts a little bit to make it go together easier. And now it's time to drill out and tap the holes so that I can put the whole thing back together when I'm done. And one last time, using Marty's magnificent mat. Alas, I cut it up and threw it away. Now here you'll see I have that bent piece. So I wrapped it in a rag and grabbed the pliers and immediately moved off camera. Oh no, wait a minute, there I go. Real gently but firmly. I don't want to break it, I just want to straighten it. Small moves, and check every so often to see where I'm at. Once I was happy with that, it was time to break out the Tamiya Surface Primer. As is typical, I usually save a little fleck of paint in order to do some paint matching, but in the move it got lost, so I had to look on the internet and look at the video footage I've taken and kind of come up with something that was reasonably close to what I thought the base ought to be. And this was the color I came up with. I typically spray at about 25 pounds. I found that if I spray with too much air pressure, sometimes that causes problems with the paint. This is a slower process. You have to do more coats, but I think you have better control when you're spraying with less air. And the reason the part is moving around like that is I'm just holding on to a screw that I put through one of the holes. I didn't want to super glue a screw to the bottom like Matchbox Marty does. I just thought that this would work fine, and as you can see, I was able to manipulate it pretty well. The same is true of the body. I kind of had to take a guess, and I started with white, added some brown, a little bit of yellow, and some red. I'll tell you too, I was not happy with the result. I thought it looked almost too fleshy. And when I put the second coat on, I actually added a little bit more brown to the mixture before I put it on. I didn't make any recordings of that because I don't want to bore you with me sitting there painting and painting and painting. But here I am again putting on I guess you'd call it a tack coat of the original color that I tried to duplicate by using photographs and whatnot. This is shoe goo. For those of you that don't know, I'm an amateur hockey player. Notice I didn't say that I'm a good amateur hockey player. And this is a product that I use on my skates because skates get pretty hacked up with pucks hitting them and whatnot. And I thought rather than just gluing it, since this is black and it has something of a rubbery consistency, that I would just smear the inside of each tire with a little bit of the shoe goo, and then put the hub back on the or the tire back on the hub, and let it sit overnight for the shoe goo to set up. These tires weren't very good looking, so I really didn't have a lot to lose. And what I'm doing there is just cleaning away a little excess. While the windscreen wasn't that bad, I thought I'd give it a little bit of attention, just clean it, and use a mild polishing compound of the Novus products that I use to just clean it up as good as it could get cleaned, I guess. Part two of the process is kind of a polishing compound. I really like it though. It does a great job, especially on windscreens that aren't really damaged where you want to take sandpaper after them. And I don't use my Dremel for this very often because one, I don't think you need to, and two, it's really easy to mess up your windscreen. Even on the lowest setting of my Dremel, If you pause in 1 second for just a very short period, it can heat up and melt the plastic. I see other restoration guys do it, and I don't know, maybe I'm just not that good at it, but this has always worked fine for me. And here I am putting some final touches on the grill with my fine modeling paintbrush. And now it's time for some clear coat. Trying to keep that part moving so I can get all sides of it. Whenever I do something with a bed, with a Jeep or a pickup or a dump truck, you always have to really pay attention that you're getting all the insides. The outsides are easy. It's capturing all the insides and getting a good coat of clear coat. I actually wound up putting about 3 coats on both the chassis and the body. So I've been trying to get away from using epoxy on the wheels, and I ordered this product, which is essentially a 1/16 inch steel tube and some little I don't know, posts, I guess you'd call them, that fit inside the tube. I'm thinking that you could probably fit the original axles in there too. Oh, and when you're cutting this stuff, be sure to hold it close to where you want to cut it. But basically you measure off the section that you need and then you cut it. And then I kind of cleaned up the end a little bit with my Dremel. Then you take that little post there and it inserts into the center. Now what I'm doing here is the posts are kind of long, so they need to be cut to length. So I'm going to lay another one right across from it so I can try to figure out how much I have to shorten them. And then basically what I did was I put a very small drop of super glue into the end of the hollow tube and inserted the post in with the wheels. And here I am taking my little bit of super glue, and it doesn't take very much. I just want to get a little bit in the hole. And then insert the replacement post into the end of it and just tap it down with my finger. Looks to be about right. And then slide it on. And that's what you wind up with. It actually looks pretty good, all things considered. And here I am doing a little bit of assembly. I don't know about you, but I always like to keep a hammer close by when I'm assembling these models. That way if I get really frustrated, I can just beat the snot out of it until it's unrecognizable and never show the video to anybody. Fortunately, this one seemed to go together pretty well. And now, let's take a look at where we started and have the final reveal. Trusty and crusty. Chipped up 50-year-old toy. And there you have it. The Matchbox 49B Mercedes-Benz Unimog. This is Chapter 4 with TimeRider. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and tell your friends.